Hi there, everyone. Thanks for dropping in on my website. This is from my YouTube channel, so I'm using this so I can express what I want to express in this. My site will be up very soon, so when you look at this on my website, it'll obviously be done. I'm still in the process of making that website. My name is David Keller, and I have adhesive arachnoiditis. I was diagnosed in 2021. I cried because for 13 years I went through absolute hell. I'm going to tell you that story only after I tell you why I'm doing this site. So pardon me, I have difficulty speaking. I get a lot of contractions in my throat, so you're going to have to pardon me. So I'm making a website, and by the time you see this on the website, of course, it will be done. I enjoy helping people, and I've been doing that type of thing for a while. And I know how devastating this disease is. I have about 12 separate pain issues, of which most are intractable. And adhesive arachnoiditis is the most painful of them all, but I go through other difficulties too. What's my goal in this? Why am I doing this? I'm doing it for two reasons, of which the first reason, the reason I have developed this website is so here's the way I look at this. I see an issue that's not being addressed properly, okay? And you know it isn't. AA is caused by, steroid shots, things that go in the epidural space, lumbar punctures, all that stuff. But I'm also learning that in the studies it says that a lot of people, when they got those shots, already had predisposing factors. And because I'm reading studies in this book here by Dr. Tennant. If you've bought his bigger manual, handbook for the medical practitioner, that they're finding, when they say I have AA and then I do an MRI and then they see that I have it, they'll see that I had another issue, like a disc protrusion or something like that. But of course those other procedures cause them on their own. It's just not very clear, right? I don't know if they've ever had a person and that is completely healthy. Have there been any studies in this where people volunteered and they gave them a shot who were completely healthy and then they watched them? I don't know. Maybe that would have to be okayed by the government first. I don't know. Why did I develop this website? I started to get a vision of seeing outside the box. What do I mean by that? I see, information here, information there, but there's no connectivity, right? You have you have your Facebook group with, let's say 4,000 to 8,000 people, which is good, right? But this isn't being addressed properly. And because it's going unrecognized by radiologists and all that type of stuff, it isn't being written as a recognized disorder, even though the specificity on an MRI is night and day. My goal here, as you'll see on my website, I'm putting a map on there, an interactive map that you can look at, and you can see I want to do this one physician at a time. What I want to do is, starting with my own city, I want to approach as many physicians as I can. as many physicians as I can. As you can read on my website, it says educating one physician at a time. What do? I go there, maybe give them my testimony of how bad this disease is, and then give them, what is it, like a $6 booklet. How do I know it will be effective? Because those who choose to listen will hear things like, I would go up to a physician and this is what I would say. If they gave me time, I would say, well, hey, do you have someone with back pain that just can't find their diagnosis? They have this and this and this complaint. Their feet burn. They have sciatic on both sides, which is not normal. That's rare. That's how I identified mine. That's how I caught on myself. Strange symptoms. Then they'll have a booklet to look at and say, hey, I have this patient who's really difficult, and they had an MRI. Maybe I'll take a look at it because I can look at the MRI myself. It's easy enough for, you have to study enough, spend a few weeks anyways, and you can look and you can see on an axial image, you can see on a lateral sagittal view, you can see the inflammation. The MRIs pick it up very well. Educate one physician at a time. I want to connect people. I want to reach out to people like on social media, like on Facebook, and ask people, are you willing to do this? Are you willing to go to a physician? And then they'll report back to me through email and they'll say, this is what I did. And then I'll put it on my interactive map. So you can click on it and you can see for each city how many doctors have been reached. You see my point, right? So you kind of have to look at this like a game. Literally, not like a job or anything like that. Every new person who's willing to go to a physician is a win. And so you start looking at the stats, right? How many doctors are there in Canada? How many doctors are in the United States? I think in the States it said like 50,000. Think of that. 50,000 isn't a lot. You just have to check one check mark off at a time. I don't know exactly how I'm going to design my page, but there will be an interactive map that you can see it. I just started to develop it as of making this video, and it's looking pretty good because I've designed a website before. And what I hope, and I have talked with Dr. Tennant. I can't, it's not easy to get any time with somebody who's very busy, right? But I hope to try to make a deal with him somehow. I don't know how I would get books to people, and I can't just give it to anyone, right? Somehow I'm going to have to hear your story. Or it doesn't have to be someone. It could be a family member. It can be someone who's concerned enough and good enough to go and educate someone on this disease. So I want to give one of these, right? Because Dr. Tennant made this. A handbook to recognize AA by MRI. And I'm only about a quarter way through this, but that's a guide to the medical practitioner, the clinical diagnosis and treatment of AA. So there it is, thinking outside the box. And I remember asking Dr. Tennant the question. I said, an interesting question, a good question. I said, because you've been doing this, this practice for so long, right? Do you notice that all the people who you deal with in like, say, the States, I want this to be global, by the way, but to go after North America first. Do you notice that people are a lot more aware in your whereabouts in California? And he said, absolutely. So do you get my point? As long as you educate these people, as long as you keep spreading it, but you have to make an indelible mark on them. You know, some doctors are going to turn you away, and they're going to, but I'm sure most will listen. Give me a little break. I'm going to give you my story and why I do this. So, education, right, is first and foremost to do this. But the second is donations. So this is a non-profit organization that I'm making. I hope to have other people that would join this team who are serious. Doesn't mean you have to do it all the time. To help with this, you know, to pay for the website and to pay for these books. So, so those are the two goals. There's a lot of suffering in this, and I'm gonna tell you what happened to me. Just let me take a little bite of my meal. I have to eat as I go along because my stomach, and I'm gonna tell my story as briefly as I can because it's quite long. So, pardon me a sec. You've probably seen my face if you have AA, just by looking at, you know, things on YouTube. I made quite a few videos on this. This has been such a long journey. I can't even begin to tell you. You can see in my video that you're going to see me going back and forth. That's because I have to constantly shift. Mine began in 2009, but I already had full body intractable pain, not unlike the pain of CRPS, but through my whole body. So I had that already. Getting contractions in my throat. I went through a lot of hell before I ever had AA. I know pain. I had very serious abdominal pain as well. And I hit my coccyx and so the way my AA began was not in a normal way. It wasn't in, this is, as it says in the book, this is the rare way that it happens, by blunt force trauma to the coccyx sacral area. I don't even want to tell the story because it is embarrassing, but it's not my fault. I hit I fell from a height, okay? And I hit my coccyx and my tailbone on asphalt from, I don't know, around 20 to 30 feet high. And it was really hard. I broke my ankle. And when I landed, it was like this. So my left went down first, and I landed in the strangest way. And I was already dealing with a lot of stuff then. Something started to change, and I was starting to get pain in my legs, but I already had like a neuropathic type pain throughout my body already. So whatever was happening was starting to mix with each other. A lot of people have AA and have CRPS, okay, and you can't tell the difference between them because they intertwine, right? But within 6 months, I was walking one night. I remember I've always been a long distance walker, biker, love sports, all those types of things. And I was walking one night by myself, and it just right on the spot, I got shocks in one leg and then the other, and it stopped me right on the spot. And after that, I just started getting a lot of shocks on my legs, that type of stuff. The pain in my legs started to become so bad, I didn't know what it was. I was even drinking alcohol because it's an NMDA receptor antagonist. I was using it just to stop the pain, not for any social reasons. The pain was getting really bad. Within a year, I became progressively disabled in my legs. I just remember waking up in the morning and taking my pain meds and sitting down. And within a short period of time, I started to feel like something was wrong. The couch that I sat on, the cushion, it felt like I was sitting on something. It was odd, strange. People with like Tarlov cyst type thing. Felt like I was sitting on something, and that was another thing that tipped me off to this. And I have a big cyst too, of which Dr. Tennant says it's just a big cyst, probably from the blunt force that looks like a Tarlov cyst anyways. That could have been it, but it helped tip me off later. I got every test under the sun. I did everything that was right, that I was supposed to. And that was 2009. I was disabled in my legs. But I had other problems in my abdomen and my body, okay? Separate issues, which makes it hard for others to understand who have this. What happened next? My nutrition went way down because I had abdominal issues. You know, one thing leads to another. I was having to be pushed in wheelchairs. Every time I went like to a hospital or to an appointment, I could barely make it to my car. Like this, I can barely stand up anymore. So that's the way it was. I was couch bound from 2009 to 2015. I remember trying to come off an opiate, and because I'd have to switch from one opiate to the next. And when I did that, was right at the time that I got a progression in my legs. This is when it completely turned on me. I went to stand up out of my bed, and it felt like the backs of my legs, the calves, stinging shocks, crushing, and I couldn't even make it down my hallway, let alone stand out of my bed for more than 10 seconds. It was brutal. You know the videos that you've probably seen with AA of people who you're, you know, they're palliative. That's where I was. My parents wanted to put me in hospice palliative care because it got so bad they didn't know what to do. It was so hard to go out to appointments. I was getting ketamine infusions, and those things wouldn't last for like more than a day. Remember my nutrition, which is another story. I stopped eating because they didn't recognize a very, very serious abdominal pain that I had. I didn't have colic medication, but this is my story, right? In my bed, like if this is my bed, right, and I'm lying on it, I'd have to have my legs up, you know, with my like up like this and my back out flat, because if I put my legs out, it felt like they were tearing, and my lower back would pull so hard. My dad was having to come to my room 3 times a day to give me Toradol injections. I should have been taking it orally, but I didn't know. There is no more danger than taking it by mouth than needle. Because it's something called the prostaglandins. That's what wears away your stomach. It's not the actual taking it. Like when you take Toradol in your stomach, yes, it can irritate it, but it doesn't. It's not the reason it's the prostaglandins that wear away your stomach lining. So it wasn't enough. The only thing, though, that would stop my pain was Toradol. There was nothing else. Like Celebrex wouldn't. These other things just wouldn't. I tried times of being off opiates to solve my abdominal pain, but it just, like, I needed these badly. Listen to this. In my bed, my legs are up like that almost 24 hours a day. I couldn't put them out, except when I got a Toradol shot. They may go down and I'd pass out. I used Toradol for 10 years. That's like completely contraindicated. You're not supposed to do that for more than 5 days. But in AA patients, it's necessary sometimes. I'm quite sure I was close to dying, and that was part of it. It believe me, it played a part in also the other things I was dealing with. Just give me a second here. I have to eat when I do this because I get gastritis in my stomach. So I was completely helpless. Completely helpless. I couldn't sleep because of my legs, because they hurt so much. And I got called every name in the book. So you can understand why I'm doing this. Like, is he a hypochondriac? Is he faking it? Is he this? You know, this is in the books, right? This is medical literature. When they can't find something, you know, they stretch out all reasoning. They look at everything. Then they start looking in at you and blaming you because they can't figure out what it is themselves. That's what this disease is. I couldn't sleep because my legs hurt so much and I couldn't put them down. I'd be lucky if I get 3 hours broken up. So a half an hour here, an hour there. It was brutal. I started to go into deliriums a lot. This was going on for months on end. That was about a year that lasted like that. Got so scared I moved down to a couch after that because I didn't want to be in my bed anymore. I was so scared of that. Just caught up staring at my ceiling because I couldn't stand up. I remember being in the hospital and they were trying to rehabilitate me. And they brought me a walker. You know, the big walkers, not a cane, but a big walker where you lift it up and you put it ahead. I don't have mild AA. When people look at me and they say, well, you look pretty good, it's because I keep myself very busy, medicated, sleep, water. I take a lot of care. I tell people I'm like anyone who you would see in any military outfit. Probably more, because I do this every day. I work out every day. I do all these things because I don't want that. You see me going back and forth here, right? You know, you can see that's because of the pain in my legs. I'm not on Toradol anymore. You ask, how did you get better? Because at my dosage. I finally brought myself to my feet myself because of also other circumstances that were going on in my family. Like my mother died. I tried to do many feats, and I did. I walked to Kingston from Ottawa. If you saw the way I looked walking. So I resembled someone who had advanced Parkinson's disease in slowness. But I was hospitalized, and in there I started to build up strength. But just the year before, with that walker, going down a hallway that was, let's say, 150 feet long, it would take me an hour. That's where I was. You know, never having a diagnosis, never having a name to it was detrimental to my health. Another reason I'm doing this. Because people start to get called stuff, you start going to doctors' offices, and like a pain clinic or something like that. And when you go into the pain clinic, you sit down and everyone else is around you. You know damn well that you're the worst in the room, like probably by a far margin. And these people seem to be treated a little bit better than you because, you know, the doctors that are about to look at you, about to take you in their office, they don't know what to do with you. That's where I was. I have all my diagnosis now, except for a couple, because they're very hard to diagnose. Anyways, those are different conditions, but this is a devastating disease. I do believe there is a way to get better. Things can be very tough if you're in a progression and you're in a place where you're not medicated correctly. Like I have my meds set up in bottles. I have my vitamins. I'll continue my story. When my mother died, my life changed. Just before then, I brought myself back to my feet. And by staying on my feet, I started to build up endurance. Not muscle, endurance. You can see I'm quite thin. It's because of my abdominal disorders. And probably this too, but I had a very hard time on my feet, but then I started to catch on to what this was. Believe me, I'm leaving a lot of hell out. In medical literature, it's not hard to see and it's not hard to look, and I'm going to put on this website a connection to a few people what it looks like with this, and you've probably seen them before, and that's what I will display is what I look like. You know, like a look on your face, you're just like, you can't think, you can't think, you're burning, you feel like boiling oil is poured over you, you're getting shocks, you're so overwhelmed, you can't make good decisions, let alone find your diagnosis to something that even if you give your MRI, you'll be lucky if they see the nerve clumps. And even if those nerve clumps are there, they may not say that in the report, which is super important to tell somebody because that's nerve clumping. But anyways, there's a high specificity in the MRI, which is very good. I caught on to this just before I moved out here on my own. I've been here for 6 years on my own. By moving out on my own, I got well incrementally to the point where I'm riding a mountain bike. I'm walking far distances, but the first 3 years I went through hell. I walk with a cane with a bent over posture. People here and live in my building certainly remember this. And I built my legs up. I remember going out, punching my legs, getting down like to rest and take all the spasms out of my legs. It was a horror show, man. But I remember I got 4 peptic ulcers. 4 peptic ulcers. They looked and found them for looking for something else that had happened. I had an allergic reaction to Moderna. That's another story. They found those. They weren't bleeding. They were probably right at that moment where they were, going to start to. I took it away. My doctor said, well, why don't you go on a little more opiate? By doing that, I made a trade-off. I have a lot of pain disorders, like injuries in my neck, my abdomen, full body intractable pain. Like it's just horrible stuff. And that Toradol was treating all the inflammatory type stuff, like pretty good. But the trade-off was the opiate helped more with the pain part. I don't know how to explain it the proper way. It just kills pain. And I noticed when I was walking, I'm like, I could probably walk further with this. I let go of my cane. Then I got to the point, started doing my own groceries. Then I'm like, well, I have a bike here, and why not use it? Afraid of falling off, of course. Get a helmet, get all that stuff, which I didn't use that the first while. But I built up my legs. I put like 2 inches on my legs just from biking. You can do that stationary at your home. Yes, you can. So I'm going to finish off here. There's a lot more in my life that I could say, but I just want to finish. I don't want to make this too long. I think you get my point. Yeah, just give me a second here. Just give me a sec. If you ask, if I see a doctor and they say, well, you're looking a lot better. Of course I do. I cannot sit down. I have a lot of trouble sitting down. I have to use distractions, food. As I'm sitting down, I work on my computer, like at dinner. My discipline is another. I may put that in a page on my website, what I do. Actually, I will. I can't stop shifting ever. It will never stop. I'll never be able to sit down in any comfort ever again in my life. And so for that reason, I'm always moving, doing activities on purpose, keeping busy, keeping distracted, keeping my pain under the best control that I can, staying in shape, make sure I am getting my sleep. Sleep is your painkiller. You know what it's like not to have it, right? A doctor may say, well, it doesn't look that bad. They don't know what you're already able to tolerate. In medical literature, remember this used to be termed and it's still viable today. This is the worst pain disorder there is on earth. I have nothing more to say. The devil's disease and the disease of no hope. But there's more treatments now which does give hope. So if a doctor says, you're not going through that much or it doesn't look like that, they have no idea what you're able to tolerate already. My legs are burning. They're burning. If you suddenly came in my body, anyone who's judging how I look, they'd be in deep distress very quickly. And the worst is when let's say I turn too quickly, and we all have to lift things, right? So I live alone, so if I lift it, if you tear those adhesions, the scar tissue that's in your spine, so this is an inflammatory. I didn't explain that on purpose, but it's a progressive inflammatory response that keeps building up more and more scar tissue. The nerves start to stick to one another, and when it adheres to the wall of the canal, to the dura covering, it's called adhesive. So the inflammation itself is just called arachnoiditis, spider web, right? That's what it looks like on an x-ray, on a microscope. And when all that scar tissue starts to adhere to the wall, it's called adhesive arachnoiditis, which is the worst type you don't want to have. So like I'm saying, people say, well, it doesn't look like you're going through that much, like say compared to other people. It doesn't mean that my pain isn't like theirs, it's that I've controlled mine. Gabapentin, high dose, opiates, enough, other medications. I work out every single day. I walk twice. I make sure to drink at least 3 to 4 liters of water a day. I eat a ton of protein, fruits. The other day, I'm going to finish this off by saying this. Like I said, if you twist those adhesions, you can end up in a pain flare. In medical literature, it says that adhesive arachnoiditis is just as painful as terminal cancer pain. And in one, this was NCBI, bone cancer. This is what happened to me the other night. And then I'll finish off and just explain quickly why I'm doing this again. I'd been doing a lot of biking and I'd been okay. I put up with small flares all the time. But I guess something had happened. I remember I biked one day, I woke up the next day, and I hurt my sciatic nerve, okay? And that makes you kind of limp, right? And I went through my day all right. I went through my first walk, it seemed to be okay. Well, no, sorry, it was painful, but compared to adhesive arachnoiditis and my other pains, just get through that, right? And I did my usual thing. I was eating, I take my meds and my food at the same time, then I go for my second walk. So I leave, and if I get no more than, say, 400 meters from here, something is wrong. I lost a key and I was going looking for a key in a forest. And I walked there. You say, why didn't you turn back? Because I really wanted to go. I started to moan, like audible moaning, like you can't hold it in. Like, where did this come from? It's a total surprise to me because I haven't had a flare like by lifting something, by twisting the wrong way in quite a while. This one just came out of nowhere, and this was the definition of terminal cancer bone pain. I walked there, I felt like I barely made it to that forest, and I knew I had to make it home, and I was walking home and I was moaning the whole way. And when you finally get home, you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like why is this? Is this going to stop? And I've had pain flares. I remember I helped a woman lift a couch, which I shouldn't have done. And I did it, and even light enough, it was just ways having to twist in her apartment and stuff like that, that I did, and I had a pain flare of that magnitude for a month. It's worse than CRPS. Even though CRPS is labeled as the worst, it isn't. It's because this one is barely known. So in this video, I'm not giving the name of my website yet because I don't want people to know it. So not quite yet. But you can see why I'm doing this now. Because this devastates people's lives. It leaves them in confusion. Like the very fact that you can go to a doctor's office and it looks like you're dying. You can barely walk. You're walking as slow as a Parkinson's patient, and yet they don't. Like, I can't blame them, but this is why I'm doing it. So I guess my point will be to connect with people by email or by phone. I don't know. I'm going to, I guess, talk to Dr. Tennant and also show him this website that I want to, by donations, get these books to the physicians with a good testimony and story, so I can knock it off, so I can mark it on interactive maps, and maybe even write down the name of the doctor. We'll see. It takes a lot of time to do this type of stuff, but I'm working on it. So I'd really appreciate your donations to forward this cause, because you know how devastating this is. And the money goes to my website, the upkeep, and those books. And so I don't know, like, if I make this a more full-time thing, would I use it to pay for my own time? I don't know. But I'm not that type of person who does that. I want to do it for a good cause, and you already understand. So I'm trying to think outside the box. You see what I'm doing, right? I'm trying to look at it from a different angle. Instead of, California here, Ontario, Canada up here, Idaho over here. Instead, let's connect them all. And let's start knocking off all those doctors and start writing it on an interactive map. Thanks for watching, guys. I guess you'll see me when the website is up.